welcome to the Nurture and Flow podcast. I am Andrea, a full spectrum doula here in Los Angeles, but originally from Oakland. And for the last 8 years, I've helped families have better birth experiences, even if we have to deviate from the plan. You are in the middle of my series, Birth Ready, A Partner's Guide to Birth. And the last 2 episodes, we've covered some intro information. Now we're kind of going to dig in a little bit more about you as a partner. And who is this for? This is for dads. This is for doulas. This is for any friends or family that are supporting the pregnant, birthing, postpartum person that's actually birthing the baby. You are the person not, but if you are the birthing person, this is also a great podcast for you because you get to kind of have a really great conversation with your partner or partners to help better support you and support the life that you want to have with this brand new baby. Today's episode is really going to be focusing on really it's really about your feeling empowered as a partner. Sorry, my brain had to switch from talking to my gestational parents. And really actively coordinating and speaking with and feeling empowered to talk to, work with, collaborate with your birth team. Now, if you're not familiar with the birth team, I can tell you here, but I went into it a more in depth in the last episode 2. I'm talking about the birth team. But it's usually most people have, say, a doctor, maybe their midwife, maybe a doula, maybe it's the family that's going to be waiting on you when you get home with the baby, maybe the folks that will be taking turns while your partner's giving birth. But you're really at the center of the bridge of your partner and their wants and needs and everybody else, right? And it doesn't mean it's you against them, but it really is about holding the line sometimes. It's not always about what we're doing right in the moment. Sometimes we have to think thoughtfully. Sometimes we're anticipating needs, which we will get to at some point in this series. But today, really, we are focusing on you feeling empowered in this space as a partner. And like I mentioned before, grab your partner, because this is a really great episode to really talk about your birthrights, the relationships that you have, the roles that people play in this space that make you and your partners feel more empowered. So let's get into it. One of the first things I mention to my clients, my families, their moms, or whoever else is involved in the birth plan, I always talk about the brains framework. It is seared into any of my family's minds. I'm telling you right now. And you can use this no matter if you're actually birthing a baby or going into any industrialized hospital setting or when you find out a diagnosis. But today we are talking about a baby, right? So the brains framework is B, what are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? What does your intuition say? And what if you do nothing? Or what if we wait, right? I'll give you an example of what that looks like. In case I didn't mention this before, I am now expecting my second baby 17 years after my first. My first. Don't even get me started. And we're doing that now. We're practicing in small ways because remember, you are an active participant in your care. It's not about being combative, right? It's not about thinking you know more. It's not about anything other than staying informed and being a participant in your care. And so the brains framework in real time looks like, hey, person, partner, person that's birthing the baby, we want to pull blood from you today. Instead of just saying, okay, sure, might as well, we're here. What would be the harm in saying, well, what is the blood test for? And they say, oh, we're checking your, we want to make sure that your iron is at a certain level. Okay, great. What are the benefits of that? What are the risks in finding out, right? What are the risks of having low, high, medium iron, right? Whatever they say that the range is. What are the alternatives? Do I have to take this now? Can we wait? How pertinent is it for me? How does it help me? How does it not help? Is it just something that just routine? Why is this important, right? And then once you find out that information, what does your intuition say? Not might as well, Because might as well looks like, oh, okay, well, I guess. No, no, no. It's either a full yes or a no. And more no's make your yes more meaningful. Okay. I know that sounds combative, especially for those of us who struggle with um, confrontation. It can feel confrontational. But when you ask questions, now you are more informed. You're a participant in your care, right? What does your intuition say? So maybe your partner, you're tapping into the birth person and saying, hey, how do you feel about that? Maybe you want to wait because maybe you're queasy about needles and maybe you want to just do a whole bunch at a run and maybe you want to wait this out. Maybe it's not important to you and you're cool with that, but you need to know that you're cool with it, right? You don't know unless you ask, what are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? What does my intuition say? And what if we do nothing? Or what if we wait? Because a lot of times, and I'll say this uh, over and over during this series, if there's an emergency, there won't be a lot of talking and a lot of rushing. It is. We've done this when we've had during labor. Sometimes things happen and interventions that we didn't plan for now have come up. And so it's, what are the benefits? What, even if it's scary? Hey, we're worried about something that happens a lot, or actually more commonly, I shouldn't say a lot, but the thing that I see often is when someone has decided to go with an epidural and their labor starts to delay a little bit. And they're like, hey, we want to do Pitocin, which speeds up labor. Now, again, these are all your choices, but you need to know why you're doing something. You need to understand why you feel comfortable with it, right? You need to understand the risks and benefits. What are the alternatives to Pitocin in this way? Can we wait? And a lot of times, if you ask me, the person that has been in birth rooms, and you say, Andrea, what do you think? I'm always going to say, well, how long have we been with the epidural? Okay, well, how long do we have before it's concerning that your contractions haven't picked back up, right? I'm going to put it back to you because it's not my job to tell you what to do. It's to think through the information you've already been given. That's why information-based work and suggestions, evidence-based work, in this space is so important. You don't have to know everything, right? This is what this is about. Knowing your rights, yes, but you don't have to know everything. You just need to know what questions you need to ask. So again, if you start with the brain's framework early and often, benefits, risks, alternatives, what does your intuition say? What if you do nothing? Or what if you wait? Will help you start to make decisions. And in order for you to make those decisions, medical providers, medical staff do not need to be in the room. Hey, can we have a moment? I heard another doula say, the best way to get medical staff out the room is to say, we need to pray on this. Even if you're not a religious person, people usually skedaddle, right? If you're comfortable, saying to the nurse that's been great to you or the doctor, hey, can we have a couple of minutes? Or how long do we have to make a decision? So that you can take your time. Again, if there's an emergency, you'll know. Even if someone says the baby's under distress, if it's real distress, they'll be wheeling you down the hallway, putting your hairnet on, and telling you what they're doing as they're walking down the hallway. I promise. If they're talking to you at bedside and they're telling you they're concerned because they've seen patterns, now you can say, okay, I'm worried about this. I'm concerned about this. Let me find out what's going on. Let me help my partner understand. Let me hear and document everything that they're saying so that we can have a moment to talk about this. And you get to have a moment with your partner to console them because sometimes the information is just scary, right? This other part that I talk a lot about with my clients is no is a complete sentence. Full stop. No. No to a cervical exam. No, I don't want any blood work. No, I don't want to do this testing. No, I don't want to, I don't want to stay here. These are all things that you can actually say and support your partner with. I think a lot of times we get afraid or we're so used to going into hospitals when we're sick. It's I'm here, make me feel better. When in actuality, pregnancy is not a sickness. It is a part of how babies are born. Now, can complications come from that? Yes. I'm not saying ignore those. What I am saying, though, is by being informed and saying no might change to yes. No might be, let me think about it. But for you and your process with your partner, and your partner says no, then that means it's no. Period. Your body, your rules, their body, their rules. That is a tenet that I've taught my now 17-year-old. He'll tell you the same thing. Your body, your rules. I'm not saying say no all willy-nilly, right? I'm also not saying, even as a doula, that I love a natural birth process. It's not for everybody, right? Our idea of a natural birth process is unmedicated, uninterrupted, all this. That's great, but that might not be how the baby decides to come. Sometimes babies decide to come via C-section. It just is what it is. But wouldn't that decision be so much better when you've been talked to, when you've been included, where you've been empowered to make that decision on your own and feel good about it? You know the risks, you know how close to any serious risk you are, and you can make an informed decision. And yes, sometimes folks use forceful language and all that, and we can talk about all these other negative experiences. And in my experience, when you have support people around you that want to support you, or you partner want to be supportive, no's mean everything because they make your yeses more meaningful. Okay. Um, you aren't a bystander. And so I'm giving you these tools so that you can support your partner. Your partner should know this too. And if you don't know this, or you don't have a doula, I have put this resource, the Brains Framework. It is not something that I created. I've heard this for a very long time, but it's something that I think we all should have in our back pocket for a rainy day. And so the resource is in the show notes or on my website. You can download it for free. Please have it for free. Share it, put it on a wall, use it as affirmations, whatever you need to do. I think it's one of the most important things. If you do nothing else, if you learn nothing else from me, remember the Brains Framework. This will be helpful to you and your partner. And if you both are on the same page about the Brains Framework and how you will be making decisions from pregnancy to postpartum, even when the baby's born, you'll have to make some decisions about whatever vaccines or what they call it, not proactive. Gosh, I can't even think today. Um, preventative care measures. You have to make a decision that best suits you. It's your baby, it's your life. And I'm not talking about going down rabbit holes on the internet and looking at Hotep or backyard blogs about things. I'm saying look at the evidence. I'm saying tap into real resources and make an educated decision based on what you know. And you may not always get it right. Someone will tell you, hey, that's the wrong information. And even then, there's alternatives to that. Outside of that, so that's the core of what we're going to talk about, the Brains Framework and your rights. I would also, if you're in California, I'll say that a lot of folks don't know this. And hopefully this makes you feel empowered. And I ask my families this, or when I'm teaching a class about childbirth, especially in hospitals, is when can you leave the hospital? You go in, you feel like you're in active labor. Maybe you go get admitted, right? Maybe birth partner is 4 centimeters, and you get in there and people are rushing around. There's a lot of excitement. Your partner's breathing. They're trying to get their breath work down. The contractions are coming pretty tight. But you're not feeling very welcomed. You feel like staff are ignoring your request or your partner's request. You're not being treated, or your partner's not being treated like a person. They're kind of yelling at them, talking to them. Do you have to say? How long can you? When do you have to leave? When do you have to leave? When can you leave is really the question. Not have to. When can you leave the hospital? So here's the answer to that. At least in California, you can leave the hospital at any point. I know that sounds crazy, but go look up your patient rights for whatever hospital that you'll be birthing. They may protest. They may say, well, we're going to put it in your file. Put it in my file. I'm out of here. Again, I'm not suggesting you leave. I am saying, though, that you have the power to do that. Like here in LA, our biggest hospital, or one of our bigger hospitals, is Cedars. And on their website, it definitely says that you get to be a participant in your care, and you get to say yes or no, even if it's against doctor's orders. You get to do that. Here's what I'm saying in saying that. You are a participant in your care. That's how much your doctors, your providers should be partnering with you so that you don't feel that way. That's why the clause is there. It's not for you to challenge it. I'm out of here. No, no, no. We're not children. And even if you are a child looking at this, blessings to you. You still have rights and your parents can support you in this. But we're not talking about that today. And when you think about that and the power that you hold, I hope that resonates in you that you have a choice here. You have a choice in the care that you receive. I have had to ask nurses to be swapped out. And that is another skill that doulas should always have. I am not a quiet doula. And if you're currently looking for a doula, you need to figure out, you and your partner, what kind of doula you need. If you are a person that shies away from conflict, or you don't always speak up for yourself, or you're really needing somebody to cheerlead you on, you need to find a doula in that. And a doula can be somebody you pay. It could be a friend, it could be a family member. Send them right on over here and they'll have all the tools they need to be able to support you in birth. But if you're looking for, especially hiring a doula, you need somebody that gets it and understands this brains framework and how much you as a partner are going to be taking part. Again, you are not separate from this conversation. You are a part of this birth, whether you're holding a leg or holding a camera, you are a part of this, okay? So understanding and building the relationship with your practitioner is really establishing a trust and rapport. Unfortunately, in medical systems, we don't always see our doctors. Sometimes you see the nurse practitioners or whoever's there. Sometimes you're going to hear something or not really understand, and or you're getting a whole lot of information and it's getting run down to you, and still you can pause a conversation and say, hey, I don't understand. Can you explain to me the benefits, the risks, the alternatives was, and then you guys can decide what you want to do, right? Maybe sometimes they're giving you information and you still just want to know what the risks, the benefits, what happens if I'm diagnosed with gestational diabetes, which is something that happens to a lot of women, especially after 30 when birthing children, especially Black and brown women specifically, okay? A lot of the positive outcomes with doctors, and I'm talking about in like hospital births, so this could also apply to birth centers and midwives, is to really be able to build a relationship. Even if the relationship at the doctor's office, which happens a lot, you're rotating through doctors, you need to know that, right? Because that'll inform what your birth experiences might be like. And so you can hone on those important things and ask whoever you're seeing more often, hey, I need to see more of this. We would like more support, especially coming from trauma informed care. Not everyone wants people touching them all the time, or a new person, they're feeling uncomfortable with that. And you may have to ask for that accommodation. That might mean that your hospital prenatals might be a little tougher to schedule, but that does not mean it's impossible. Okay. That attending, and then this part, speaking of doctor's visits and prenatals, I should say, with your midwife or your actual OB at a hospital, is to make sure you're attending. And we talk about that in the previous episode. But to be a part of the process, you have to be in the process. Getting secondhand information is always like telephone. Your partner, especially the later they go down the line to birth, things our hormones are out of whack, our bodies are aching, we're tired, we're irritated, we might be up and down, we might be just beautifully fine and no issues, but we get a little brain fog. And so it's important to have somebody support us. Not only is that meaningful, not only is it so meaningful, it's helpful in the long run. Because you can say, hey, didn't they say something about this before? XYZ. I have a note about this in my phone. I remember them saying this. I just don't think I asked questions. And then you can call whoever, call the doctor's office, send them an email, and really be a clear participant. When I think about the brains framework and use this a lot with families, we end up really talking specifically about medical interventions and options. And I don't think we'll have time to get into it in this episode, but to just name a few where all this knowledge that I just gave you, that you can just continue to absorb at these different points. The prenatal care, right? What kind of care you're going to get in prenatal appointments. This is pre-baby, before the baby's born. It could be the screening, the regular checkups, uh, nutritional counseling, and be wary of nutritional counseling because some of that is also rooted in some non inclusive practices. So be wary of that, but try to understand as much as you can. There's labor induction. So there may be things that come up during labor that might need an intervention. And so that brains framework, understanding your rights and your role in this space is going to be really helpful to your partner and your baby. Okay. Pain relief options, something else that comes up throughout pregnancy and postpartum. As much as we want to, some folks choose to avoid, and some of us are like, nah, shoot me up, give me the things, fine. You just need to know what they are, right? A C-section, a cesarean birth, or what I like to call a belly birth. This is probably the one of the hottest topics that we talk about, and I want to pause here for a second. C-sections or cesarean birth and belly birth or belly birth is still birth. Just because a baby did not come through the vagina does not mean somebody gave up. It doesn't mean someone's weak. It doesn't mean you did something wrong. Sometimes baby's not interested. It's just what it is. Sometimes, you know what? Hey, I can't do this anymore, or someone's traumatized, it might mean a C-section. It does not take away from the birth experience. Sometimes a baby is just transverse and they not coming down. That means the baby's across the belly. Head is over here, butt's over here. The baby's that way, you're not birthing that baby vaginally. It's just not happening. I know. We don't want to hear it, but that's the truth. And the baby doesn't turn, whatever. So you have to have a C-section. Then make the decision because you have the information. Then making the decision is might as well, or they're scaring me, right? This is why the brains framework is so important. And I would highly suggest you also pause and talk to your partner, even if they don't want to think about a C-section, especially my VBAC mamas, that you have to consider it because we all start to imagine the birth that we want to have. And it can be really difficult to divorce that idea. And then you have to mourn that idea in that moment, and you continue to mourn it. And then you start thinking about all the things you could have, should have, would have done. And sometimes it's just not that. And guess what? It might have been someone's decision that maybe we hedged our bets and did this one thing. And turns out it's really a flip of the coin. And turns out this didn't work. So now we're here. Again, I want you prepared. That's it. Because we don't know what's going to happen leading up to it. And I'm talking about with each birth. If this is your third baby and you're just now like, let me find out a little bit more, it could lead to a C-section. And that is okay. What's not okay is being afraid and being forced or coerced into a C-section. To be informed, to be empowered, to be given the tools to support your partner in making that decision and then supporting them thereafter is far more important. I promise you. So to ruin this experience with thoughts of failure in a C-section or belly birth is such a takeaway from the beauty that this person grew your human for however many months. And now this beautiful baby's here. You still get to mourn that moment. Your feelings are valid. You think you did all the things. And sometimes baby's like, I'm not interested in wiggling myself down that vaginal canal. I'm just not interested. And that's where you are. And by following the brains framework, benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, what if you do nothing or wait? You've given yourself enough opportunity to make decisions, to think thoughtfully about this, to consult with each other, and hopefully build a more trusting bond together to know that we've made this decision together, right? Husband, wife, mom, sister, doula, whoever's in the room, you partner, you get to do that. And you get to be supportive in that decision making. And you still get to love on this beautiful baby. Okay. Some other ways, right? There's continuous fetal monitoring, there's episiotomies, there's postpartum interventions. These are all things that you can be thinking about when we're talking about um, the understanding medical interventions and the options. There's so many. I wish I could cover them in like one episode. I think I'm gonna have to make a whole series just about this specifically. But there is a book that I want to suggest, and last two episodes I've been talking about books, and I was like, you know what, I need to write down these books that I love. And here's one: The Birth Partner, a complete guide to childbirth for dads, partners, doulas, and all other labor companions. There's a few other books, but they're very gender specific, so I just want to kind of put that out there. um, we're Pregnant, the First Time Dad's Pregnancy Handbook. I really like that book. It's kind of fun to read. And then there is a month, and uh, this book specifically, the We're Pregnant, the First Time's Dad, actually goes month by month from pregnancy all the way to labor and delivery. And this is, especially if this is your first time or you haven't dug in this deep and this is your third baby, that's a really great book to read. The first one is heavy, it's dense, but it's not unbearable. So get it on an audiobook, and I'll drop the titles in the bottom of the show notes. But just so you know, the first one I suggested was The Birth Partner, a complete guide to childbirth for dads, partners, doulas, and all other labor companions. And then the second book is We're Pregnant, which is not as gender inclusive. The First Time Dad's Pregnancy Book. And that book goes by month to month what to expect and what's happening. And I think it's just really digestible. So find it on Amazon or your local bookstore, or get it on Audible so you can be listening to it and taking notes or talking to your medical provider and your partner about these things. It's just those are really two great resources. I'm sure I can think of some more. But for our purposes, this is just like a good point to really think about the advocating for your partner. And so that's really what we've been talking about in this episode. When people hear advocate, they think of loud, standing on a rooftop. No means no. It's like, yeah, it might get there. Some of us do that. But maybe advocacy for you is just taking care of your partner. It's as simple as that. Not ignoring what people are saying. Sometimes it might mean you got to step out of your comfort zone, especially for those of us who happen to be non-confrontational beings, and that's okay. This is for you to kind of step into your power here. And I don't mean to get hippy dippy on this. I'm not saying pretend to be someone else, but by asking questions, you slow down the process. By inquiring or asking for more time, it allows you to process. By asking your partner once those folks leave, what do they think? Here's what I think. Here's the information. What makes sense for us? Not only empowers you both to make decisions, but it builds intimacy and trust from your partner in this process, which can also feel really isolating to your partner. That's advocating. And so advocating is what we're talking about as a partner. And when I think about it for partners, I think it's also such a beautiful thing for you to know enough. Yes, your partner is pregnant, but you can know stuff too. And you have your sweet spots, the things that you're great at. Stay in your lane, that's less traffic. And if you need to get over, you put a clicker and you're cautious and you're getting as much information as you can before you get over into that next lane. Because if you don't, you're going to get in a car crash. So take that lock that in your brain for when you're ready to take on something new in the birthing space. Maybe you didn't think that you'd want to look the baby come out. And now you've gotten all this information, and you know what? Maybe it's just not that bad. Maybe now you want to do that. Maybe you want to catch your baby, right? Where you didn't even think that was something that you could do. And advocacy, yes, for your partner, but it's also for you and your baby. This is your baby. Whether, again, you're married, you're dating, you're not a biological parent, but you're supporting this person in their stance. This is y'all's baby, okay? Y'all's baby together. Y'all bringing this baby into this world. You doing your part. The birthing person's doing their part. Everybody's doing their part to bring this baby. And the best thing you can do, the place that you start, is advocacy. And the way you advocate is with information, because what? Knowledge is power. I think one of the things, as I wrap up, I think partners tend to feel and can feel isolated or not as important. And to be fair, as partners, we're not the most important thing. Doesn't mean you're not important. It doesn't mean you ignore yourself. But by continuing to empower yourself, and if you're listening to this and made it 30 minutes, 25 minutes in, then you're doing something right. And all you can control, which is not much, is the things that you can. And what you can control in this instance is how you show up, not only for yourself, but the person that's birthing this baby and for the baby that's coming into your life. Even if you're scared about the baby, a little unsure, am I going to be a good parent? I'm going to be terrible. It's yes to all that. I have a 17-year-old. Okay. I'm still thinking like, dang, I probably could have done this thing better. I could have done that. Um, I'm sure at some point he's going to go to therapy as an adult and they're going to sit me down and say, Andrea, you know what, you did these things and your son doesn't feel that great about it. And I'm going to have to acknowledge that, you know what, that was my shortcoming. And I can say I did my best with the information that I had then, and I can do better with the information that I have now. And that's all you can wish for. And I want to empower you to do that. If you ever need resources from me, you can check the show notes or my website at www.nurtureandflow.com. I am going to be doing a bunch of series like this, so I hope you join me. But my first one I thought should be the focus of partners. We don't focus enough. And so this 9-part series is all dedicated to partners. And I really hope you enjoy. You don't have to listen in succession, but I highly suggest you do. And I am wishing you all the best and all the best of luck. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at Andrea@nurtureandflow.com. Happy to answer as many questions as I can and hopefully answer some at the end of these podcasts. And where can you find me? Nurtureandflow.com. You can find me Nurture and Flow Birth on Instagram, Nurture and Flow Birth on TikTok, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.